This is the story of my grandfather Hans Jenny, who served in World War II in the Swiss Army and made the great immigration to America, where he became a skilled professional electrical engineer.
World War II began when Germany invaded Poland in 1939. With mandatory service, the Swiss Army mobilized with 800,000 soldiers within 2 days to prevent Nazis from marching into Switzerland as they were taking over Europe country by country. While Switzerland was officially neutral during the war, they were completely surrounded by the Nazi powers in the form of Germany, Austria, Italy, and occupied France. The Swiss Army was engaged in building up defensive forts and improving their weaponry, all developed and produced by Swiss industry. Switzerland was constantly worried about Hitler invading, but soon Germany became more engaged with the Russians, and the small country was pushed to the back of their minds. Through Hans' story, we can gain insights of life as a World War II Swiss soldier and as a Swiss immigrant to the U.S.
Hans Jenny was born in Switzerland in 1919. At 5 years old, his father got a job with Shell Oil Company in Mexico, so him and his mother came along and lived in Mexico for 5 years. At 6 years old, he went to an American kindergarten in Mexico and learned English. Due to the bad schools in Mexico, in the 4th grade, his parents decided it was best for him to go back to Switzerland to receive a better education. With a heavy heart, he left his parents and went back to Switzerland to live with his grandparents and go to boarding school.
I saw my parents. They could come on vacation once every 3 years. I could see them for a week. That was pretty tough.
As time went on, he continued through high school.
But just a year before I graduated, my dad died of cancer, so I lost him at the age of about 18. I was 18 and he was 48. Very sad. I then lived with my mother afterwards.
In 1938, Hans graduated from high school. During this time, life was getting very hectic in Europe because Hitler was ranting day and night on the radio and threatening everyone around him. He wanted Switzerland to join the Reich, but they refused and it infuriated him, calling Switzerland a bunch of dirty cow herders. From that point on, Hitler was very angry and strongly anti-Swiss.
After high school, Hans was accepted into the Army and into the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, one of the top technical universities in the world. In this period of time in Hans's life, the late 1930s, he would train at the Army, but then during his leave time, he would go back to college and study.
I joined the Army in 1938, went to basic training, went through that, and then I was sent to non-commissioned officer school, and I did that. And then I was sent to officer school, and by that time it was like 1942, and I was a lieutenant. As a lieutenant then, I served with a unit in the mountains, making sure that everything was safe. There were many people trying to come into Switzerland.
Fortunately, the German army was preoccupied with the Russian army, which was more important than capturing Little Switzerland. In the meantime, the Germans had captured most of the European countries in addition to Poland, Belgium, Luxembourg, Holland, France, Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary. Switzerland was one of the only European countries that had not been captured, although it was surrounded by both German and Italian Nazis. Wartime was tough for everyone because food and supplies were scarce. Even women played a big role by taking up labor-intensive jobs like Hans's wife, who took over the farm when he was in the army.
It was tough. We had to have food stamps for everything. For instance, we could have 1 egg a week, and the same thing was the case with all other food. Food was very rare, but we didn't die of hunger.
Even throughout these hardships, Hans managed to survive and continue his journey. During his service, Hans heard often about the technical advances in the U.S. and really wanted to go over there and learn more. So, he filed a request for an entry visa through the U.S. Embassy in Switzerland. He didn't hear back for 3 years. He graduated college and got his master's degree in electrical technologies and was also offered a job at the Institute of Technology. He worked there for some time while he worked on his PhD thesis until finally, in 1945, his visa request was approved with only 3 months to travel, or his eligibility would become invalid due to the numerous requests. What followed was the biggest adventure of Hans's life. He had to abandon his mother, cut short his employment at the Institute of Technology, discontinue his PhD effort and abruptly leave before the end of the war. Neither his mother nor his professor approved. Since there were no planes to travel at that time, he got his passage on a Liberty ship named Dudley H. Thomas. Before he could travel, he needed a visa to travel through France to Cherbourg, where he was to board. The French did not want to give him a visa, but after a quick chat with his dentist and a phone call, he dashed to the French embassy, where another patient of the dentist stamped his passport. Within a week, he was packed and off by rail to the port. The ship had only 3 passengers, and the captain assured them that they would land in New York in 10 days. Instead, they got caught in the worst storm and limped into a naval base in Virginia after being tossed around for 28 days. After landing in Norfolk, Virginia, he took the train to New York and there started his first day in the U.S.
I knew nobody in the United States. What was I going to do next? I got on a train and wanted to go up to New York on the train to find out what New York was all about.
That day, he interviewed with the manager of RCA and later got a call from personnel inviting him to dinner.
Brought me to his home and he said, well, we talked with the chief engineer and he said we should make you an offer right away. So he did, right there at the dinner table on my first day in the United States. And I asked, is this a good salary? Because I didn't know what a dollar was. I didn't know what things cost here or anything. I was just a greenhorn. And so I thought, oh, well, I accepted and started work the next day.
In May 1945, soon after Hans arrived in the United States, the war ended, which was a great relief to all.
Oh, this was a great celebration. Everybody, the whole country celebrated. When I came over on my little freighter and we landed in Norfolk, the first thing I did is I went into a restaurant and I ordered a glass of milk. And it tasted so good. Hadn't had milk for quite a while. So I asked the waitress, can I have another glass? And she just laughed. She said, you can have as many glasses of milk as you want. Because in Switzerland then the milk was still not available, except with milk cards.
This is a man who has lived for almost 100 years and has amazing recollection of all of them. He started as a young boy in Switzerland, had a difficult childhood mostly without his parents, and endured the horror of World War II all around him. Somehow, Switzerland survived, and after the war, Hans set out for a new life in America, and despite a rough trip that wound up thousands of miles off course, began what became an amazing life and successful career in America. He worked 45 years for RCA, one of America's greatest companies of its time, and was the owner of many patents. He still managed to go back and forth to Switzerland many times over the years, and at age 95, still splits his time between living in America and living in Switzerland. This is yet another incredible story of a humble immigrant making an amazing life for himself and his family in America.